Rusty and Fred. It was a damp spring morning on the island of Sodor. The freshly cut grass had a tinge of weed killer in the air as Rusty did his duties along the scholarly line.
We're on schedule as usual, Rusty. We may even be early so you can fill up and have a rest at the sheds.
Rusty remained quiet. He was looking forward to his nap. The temperature was fairly low and he was feeling quite cold.
I'll be glad when it's winter and we don't have to kill these blasted weeds.
Rusty was one of the few diesels on the island who had a generally positive attitude. However, the other diesel on the railway, Fred, could be quite the handful. He meant well, but was lazy and had a tendency to break down. Among the more hard-working engines such as Rusty, Scarloey, Rheneas and Peter Sam, Fred was seen to be a slacker, and his breakdowns were fake. But to Duncan and Sir Handel, he was their friend, and they stood up for him. The others thought the two may have had an influence on him, but he really seemed like he was pained whenever he broke down, and wasn't lacking in being convincing. This had been bugging Rusty for a few months. The thing controller had taken a note of Fred's illness, and he assigned Fred to shunt in the yard as it wasn't a formidable task, and was relatively close to the works when he did break down. Fred was collecting Sir Handel's goods train, and was laying out the trucks carelessly on the points leading out of the yard. Suddenly, the thing controller came running over.
I'm sorry, Fred, but Rheneas' valves have jammed, and we need you to move him back to the shed. Please do it as quickly as possible.
Fred, being of course the lazy engine that he is, moved off fairly slowly to help Rheneas. Meanwhile, Rusty was making his way back to the sheds. Having finished his weed killer run early, he was not expecting the points to be blocked by the trucks Fred had left. He rounded the bend and saw the trucks, but he couldn't stop in time. Rusty came alongside Fred, who was still dozing. He still hadn't forgiven him for the accident he caused yesterday. Rusty couldn't understand how Fred got away with his laziness. In any case, he was proud to be a really useful engine, in the eyes of the thing controller anywho.
You know, it seems I do all the hard work around here, Fred.
What you mean?
Well, seeing as you always seem to be tired or ill, I end up doing your jobs. It's not fair. And then you caused that accident yesterday?
But I didn't mean to.
You know, Fred, just for one day, can you stop faking your illness and help me with the weed killer? It's just one day out of the whole year. Is that so hard to ask? Last year I had to do it all, on my own. And I don't think I need to remind you that we're supposed to do it together.
I've never seen you so angry, Rusty. I think that sun's really getting to you.
Will you stay out of this? Not like you're the best one to talk, Sir Handel, because maybe if you got that selfish funnel of yours out of the clouds for 1 second, you could see that Fred has been leaving me to do most, if not all, of his work. But what would you know? I feel like I'm just wasting my time right now. I have to take my next train.
Well, that was something. What about you, Fred? Won't be very useful if you're just sitting around all day.
Well, I just... you know about my problems.
All I can think of is how much you sleep. Now I have to get back to work. You should do the same. It isn't much fun being overworked by the end of the day while you sit here and do nothing.
Maybe one day.
The next morning, Rusty was waking up when Peter Sam came up next to him.
Hello, Rusty. Did you hear about Fred?
I'd rather not. What happened this time? Let me take a wild guess. He's still sleeping.
No, he's not in his shed. I heard one of the workmen say he was going to pull the train.
Alright, good for him. Wait, what?
Rusty raced out of his shed to go find Fred. When he arrived at the station, Fred was there. He was coupled up to the front of Rusty's train.
Fred, what are you doing? This is my train, you know?
Yes, well, I'd like to finally show how useful I am by taking your train. Besides, I've been doing all the resting around here. Take a break from your hard work.
Rusty didn't respond right away. This was the last thing he expected from Fred. He sat there, thinking. But just then Rusty had an idea.
Very well then, Fred, take my train. I hope you have a calm journey.
Oh, thank you, Rusty.
He won't last 10 minutes. He's the slowest engine on the railway. The passengers will be very cross and he'll never want to steal my coaches again.
Rusty's mind was for once wrong. Fred didn't steal his coaches, he just wanted to do the right thing.
Rusty will be pleased. I hope this makes up for the trouble I've caused to him.
Fred trundled along the line with a smile on his face. Fred was an engine who meant well, but he usually isn't aware when he's being lazy or moving at a slow pace, so today he was in a bit of a rush. But his driver helped him to maintain a suitable speed for the run.
Driver, what if I mess this up?
Now don't worry, Fred. I'm here to help you if something does go amiss.
The reassurance Fred's driver gave him helped him to continue his journey. He reached the top station without any faults or stopping where he shouldn't. Meanwhile, Rusty had gone up to the slate quarry and was organising the trucks. However, as usual, they weren't cooperating well and Rusty was finding it difficult.
Come on, can't you behave properly?
Rusty gave them a fierce bump. That got their attention. And they did not like the treatment. They waited until Rusty was on the line to the sheds. He had to wait there so Fred could pass with his train. Rusty coupled up to the trucks, but they suddenly pushed him hard. The points were against him, so he derailed.
Not again.
Just then Fred came trundling down the track. His spirits lifted due to not breaking down or slacking. He then saw Rusty derailed.
Oh dear, what's happened?
Rusty told him.
Well, I can't just leave you like that, Rusty. I'll go and fetch help.
Fred hurried away to the previous station to alert some workmen. Fred's guard made sure to warn control of the accident. He brought them to the accident site and they left Rusty astride the rails. Fred then used the tow cable to pull Rusty safely back onto the tracks.
Why is he being so helpful? What's gotten into him?
He quizzed Fred on his revelation on the way back to the sheds.
Well, I was hoping to do the right thing and make up for the accident I caused, and by doing a little bit of hard work and pulling myself together, I completed the run just fine, without any breakdowns so far.
Rusty was left astonished. He hoped that he could see this Fred more often. The lazy breakdown Fred was something that the railway did not need nor want. Back at the yards, the thing controller commended Fred's efforts, albeit somewhat causing the accident in the first place. However, the thing controller was willing to overlook that due to Fred's honest intentions. After he left, Rusty spoke lowly to Fred.
Fred, I wanted to thank you for helping me. However, I still think you should be more helpful from now on.
Fred gave it some thought.
Nah, I think it was just a one-off thing.
As Fred left with a sputtering from his engine for his shed, Rusty's small smile turned into an unimpressed frown.
He'll never learn, will he?
Scullery pulled up next to him with a goods train.
What do you mean?
Oh, hi Scarlowy. Nothing much, just thinking about Fred.
Oh yes, I've heard he's quite different today.
It's just a one-day thing, so don't get used to it. He's gonna go back to being a lazy engine before you know it.
Okay, Rusty, what's bothering you?
What? How did you...
You are clearly acting a lot more grumpier these days. Is it because of Fred?
Fred was brought to the railway to do work, yes, but he hardly does anything. And even if he does do it, he makes it so slow. Then when he breaks down, I have to do my work as well as his. The Think Controller said Fred was brought here to help me with my work, but in reality I'm doing all my work plus his. There is no balance between us and it's starting to get to me.
Scullery thought, and chose his next words carefully.
Are you absolutely sure Fred fakes his illness?
Rusty was taken aback by the sudden question.
Well, not completely, but there is no way denying that he takes advantage of being ill. And every time he pretends to be ill, Duncan and Sir Handel always stick up for him. Last year I had to do the weed rounds all by myself, where the Think Controller stated very clearly we needed to share our work.
I see. Have you tried viewing it from his perspective, though?
What do you mean? Are you saying I'm lying?
I'm not saying that, Rusty, but it's clear that you are letting your anger get the better of you.
I may have let it show a bit, but that's beside the point. If Fred doesn't get his act together, then I'll confront the Think Controller about turning him into a generator or something.
You will do no such thing. Look, I'll speak with the Think Controller, and I will make sure he knows about this.
If you say so, Scarlowy.
With that, Rusty rode off to the sheds. The little engine watched as the diesel departed. Scullery thought long and hard about the conversation, and the next morning he spoke with the Think Controller about Fred. When he heard about this, Fred was sent to the works so the men could look at his engine to see if it could be fixed. However, since he was a hybrid engine, the workmen didn't want to tamper with too much, in case it broke completely. When Fred returned, he had a long talk with the Think Controller, who was not best pleased to hear about false breakdowns, but sympathy was something the Think Controller had. So, Fred was left to do yard work. Rusty still doesn't trust Fred completely, although he does his best to stay positive about the matter, and tries to encourage him. Little did the other engines know, Fred would get his act together, and it would be a lot sooner than they would have ever expected. But that's another story.